Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Super Tease video. And with this one, I wanted to bring you my competitive 3v3 9.1.5 PvP tier list. So a lot has actually come in and a little couple of minor changes over time that has really shifted a lot of the power of these specializations. And with 9.2's PTR having been up for some time, it's possible that this season could be coming to a conclusion pretty soon, which means if you want to push for some of these limited edition transmogs, mounts, and titles, then this tier list is going to help you picking your specialization and picking your composition to push towards those rewards. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the patch changes in real time, then make sure you hit the subscribe button because I do my best to bring those changes to you basically as soon as they happen and give you a little bit of my opinion or predictions in terms of what's looking to be really awesome in the future. And if you've left WoW at this time, I might pique your interest in the future as well. So you may look to hit the subscribe button for that reason as well. Now, just getting started here, there have been a lot of tuning knobs adjusted for PvP in 9.1.5, and a lot more of the DPS specializations are more viable. One of the main contributing factors to that is the ability to do burst damage. So looking at the first specialization listed here in the rankings is going to be Affliction Warlock. One of the main contributing factors to Affliction's increasing viability is the damage output with Death Bolt via the Night Fae Covenant. Adding Soul Rot as an extra damage over time effect allows you to completely KO people. Mind you, it has a lot of setup, and players that know that the Soul Rot is the pivot point of getting the Death Bolt, a lot of healers will just dispel the row of dots before the damage can go out. Now, if a healer is unaware of this combo, or if a team is just unaware of it entirely, then a Warlock is going to sneak away with a lot of kills. So Affliction can definitely dominate players who are unsuspecting to its Death Bolt build, but the higher you get into the ladder, the worse it becomes. So for that reason, while it is more viable and you can try to set these up, it can also be frustrating because a lot of other specializations do the same amount of burst or maybe even harder with a lot less of the setup and a lot less of the headache and counterplay that you are going to have to deal with. So Affliction for me, in terms of trying to give it a high ranking, I've seen some compositions, the Rogue Warlock, particularly the Shadow Priest Warlock, they're about in the mid tiers. You can comfortably, I would say, push to Gladiator. When you're starting to try and reach for rank 1 titles, though, you're going to fall off, and I think that's what's going to be holding Affliction back for me. It's in a spot where it can compete because it's got that Death Bolt one-shot, but other than that, it's going to be quite limited, and I've already listed the compositions for it. Now, Arcane Mage is also more viable now. There were some changes to Mage that made their offensive damage cooldowns unpurgeable, so you're not going to have to worry about your arcane power getting stripped off. You can go for Barrage Executes through that legendary. Triune Ward has lost a lot of its effectiveness, which means Arcane can get a lot more damage out, but you're still running with the restriction of having basically one school of magic and being shut down quite easily because of that. I have seen some compositions like the Mage Warrior Mistweaver, the Mage Warrior Resto Druid for Arcane working pretty well here. Again, comfortably going to be able to push Gladiator for it if you wanted to go for that title specifically. When you start going for rank 1, I think the ability to shut it down, tunnel it, and sometimes global it, because Arcane, it can be completely fragile to the amount of damage available from things like a Ret Paladin, is where you're going to start to get frustrated with it. So I actually think Arcane is held back for this. It has a tremendous amount of damage, and you're going to have a lot of fun with it in the game with things like Arcanosphere and channeling out these big hits and going for big nukes. But at the competitive viability level, it's actually going to fall pretty short for me. Coming in at the C tier, even though I've even played with it at 2800 MMR. I think when you start getting across some of the best compositions, the best players in the game that know how to shut it down, know how to exploit its fragility, that you start to lose out on the competitive edge that it would have at the lower rankings. Beast Mastery Hunter, this is pretty easy. Jungle Cleave is a very powerful composition. This composition you will more than easily be able to breeze through the ladder with. Feral Druid Priest, Feral Druid Priest, and BM Hunter. It's just absolutely crushing it. Won the previous AWC. There really hasn't been a lot to change from that. The reductions to Feral Healing have not negated the potency of that composition basically whatsoever, and it's S tier because of that. Now, Balanced Druid, you're going to see a lot of compositions kind of creeping up here. I had the Windwalker Balanced Druid in particular. This is because of the Kindred Spirits with the Necrolord Covenant synergy, granting 16% versatility. Means that Windwalker monk is chunking people really hard. I've seen some Balanced Druid Demon Hunters in the mix as well. It's certainly competitive. Going to be a rank 1 pushing specialization, easily getting Gladiator with it. For me, it comes in at about the A. I think it's a little bit lower than the S tier. We don't see it in tournaments, right? So I think it's missing maybe something that's holding it back from getting there, but it's really close. The way that it plays within the meta, instant crowd control, instant burst, providing the support to the Windwalker, great utility to draw out a match. This is why I'm giving it this ranking in A. At the moment. And now Demonology Warlock, this specialization has seen a lot of buffs as well. It was in basically every previous tier list that I've ever made, bottom of the barrel, just scraping by, but changes to the Decimating Bolt, allowing the stacks to now be unpurgeable, makes Demon Bolt hit really hard, and you have the threat of the Demonic Tyrant. So you have your Demonic Tyrant for a big cooldown threat, and you have the Decimating Bolt, which means you can be threatening more frequently, which was the main problem for Demonology. You are quite durable, providing you with a very big Dark Pact shield, and now that we've seen fixes to the Shattering Throw, although it seems like maybe it doesn't even work at all anymore, means that your Absorb effect is going to feel a lot more protected and safe, rather than having to cancel it before you got one shot by the Shattering Throw. So for me, Demonology Warlock, having the ability to set up for instant damage after the Decimating Bolt, and having good cooldown pressure with the Demonic Tyrant, good crowd control, just shutting down enemies, I think it actually ranks a bit higher than Affliction. Coming in at the A tier, I think it can be a rank 1 viable specialization. You pair it up with ranged DPS like a Frost Mage, so you've got that caster pressure just constantly going out. I think you're going to have a really good time with it, with a Mistweaver or a Resto Druid, or even a Holy Priest. You're going to be able to climb the ranks with it. So A tier for Demonology, and that's a big up, right? Like I've put Demonology on D pretty much the entire expansion. Destruction Warlock, again, the main problem is that there's a lot of counterplay to the damage that you do. You're going to be pretty much restricted to double range DPS. I have seen Thugonomics jumping onto the Destro, running some double range DPS at some very high MMR. So if you're literally the best player in the game, you could probably get rank 1 on any of these specializations if you were just quite literally number 1 in the world, and you had people willing to play with you on that specialization that were also, number 1 in the world. Like we see Thugonomics playing with Chun-Li a lot, tournament competitors for years now. You can make all these specs work, but you're going to be frustrated at how much you have to try compared to a lot of the other outputs of specializations. You can run the double range DPS, much like Demonology, but I think you get shut down a little bit harder. It really is matchup dependent. For Destruction Warlock, I think it comes, maybe I should have had like an in-between point here, because I do think it is very close to Affliction, maybe slightly better overall for climbing the ladder, so probably coming right about in the middle. If you're focusing on running those double range DPS, I'd say at lower rankings, you're probably going to have less likelihood of success playing Destruction, though. So if you're going after those transmogs for 1800 or the lower ranks, you might want to avoid it. But if you're going for the Gladiator, double range DPS, I think you could pull it off. It may be challenging. Maybe I should drop it down even more. This is a really tough one to nail. At the moment, it's getting some interesting set bonuses in 9.2 that might save it, but right now I kind of feel safe just leaving it in the middle. Elemental Shaman, this is a specialization that has great one-shot damage, pairs excellently with double range DPS with the Fire Mage Ellie, maybe even possibly Shadow Priest Ellie. I've seen a lot of interesting combinations with it. Boomkin Ellie. For me, I think it's coming in at the A tier for its possibilities for pushing up to the rank 1 level of the ladder because of its synergies with other amazing specs like the Windwalker Monk. I think that it's going to be able to climb, and you'll have a good time with it, and you're going to be able to play it. I'd say at the lowest rankings, you might come into some frustrations. You might be getting tunneled down, especially if you're under geared. But when you push up towards the higher end of the ladder, I think you have a good chance of doing very well with it. And like I said, Ellie Boomkin, maybe even Ellie Demo. I haven't really seen it a lot, but it's possible. A lot of double range DPS, Ellie Fire, and you're going to be able to pull it off. Fire Mage, even though Triune Ward has been nerfed, even though your combustion is now the only mage cooldown that can be purged, it's still S tier. I don't know how this spec is not going to be at the top, because it's been hit so many times that at this point I'm just like, I can't believe that it's still going. Fire Mage may be the best spec in WoW, period, at this point. Maybe we should even, compete it, jump it over for BM a little bit if it's possible on this, and specifically the RMP. So Rogue, Subtlety Rogue, Fire Mage, Holy Priest. This composition allows you nasty instant triple crowd control setups where you are a threat for lethality with Combustion. Your Rogue is a threat to lethality with Shadowy Duel and Shadow Blades. And your Holy Priest just sets up easy crowd control with Chastise, Dragon's Breath, and Cheap Shot. So everyone has a crowd control target. You execute and you KO. You are going to do phenomenally with it. I would say that maybe it falls short as the Wizard Mage. You don't want to run the double range DPS if you're fire. Leave that for Arcane or Frost. But RMP is, I would argue to say it's the best combo of the game, rivaling jungle at least. At the moment, aside from Ret Warrior, but it's a ranged DPS list. But you will succeed on fire, I think, irregardless of the rating. It's a great spec, really popular. You'll get invited to a lot of groups. Definitely one to look out for. Frost Mage is getting better. It's definitely leveled up a lot since the beginning, and this is most notably due to the Necrolord and the Deathborn build with Frost. Now with Icy Veins being unpurgeable, you have this big Omega Cannon phase when you go into the Deathborn skeleton and you activate Icy Veins, and you are just chunking people as hard as a Marksmanship Hunter, really. And when you pair that up with double ranged, like a Destro or Demonology Warlock, you get complete control of the fight, and you're going to be able to climb. I think it's a lot more viable than it has been so far. I think that gives it a little bit of a jump here. We're going to be putting it up here. Maybe we'll rank these based on their viability left to right, right? So Fire's the best spec, BM second, Boomkin, LA. Do we really want to put Boomkin that far up? I feel like I'm giving it too high of a ranking for how much I get tilted when I play it, but when I've seen other people playing it, so I don't want to be biased, it seems to be doing pretty well and have a lot of options. So I would say that's fair. Now, Marksmanship Hunter, this spec is just absolutely so much fun and just slaps damage right now that if you haven't made a Marksmanship Hunter at this point, I really don't know what you're doing. Its competitive viability is skyrocketed, flown through the ceiling, because it's able to do damage not only in its cooldowns, but just at all times you're going to be a threat. You may notice that you're going to be more fragile, though. And if you are caught in bad situations without your feign death or a binding shot or a disengage, that you will explode. But if you are very good with your kiting, very good with your mobility and your snares, then you will just completely decimate the battlefield. You can run double ranged. You can focus on maybe even running jungle or bringing in a rogue for some extra melee damage, or rep paladin. You got more flexibility, and you have these really big chunk damages, whereas BM is more focused on the sustained output and pressure. MM will just KO people. I think it can be more predicted and countered with disarm and the fragility of it, so maybe you're held back a bit, which is why for me it falls just short of the S tier, and I would say is likely maybe the best A tier specialization at the moment that you can play, but it is a lot of fun. You definitely need to check it out. You'll be having a good ride with it. I've seen a lot of people that have picked it up also having a really good time with it over some of the other specializations that they were getting tired of. Now, Shadow Priest, this spec is still just absolutely a monster. It has so much flexibility in covenants, flexibility in compositions. You can run the double casters, run the melee ranged healer. You just have this infinite slew of options. You're going to always be in demand because you have greater fade and dispersion, which are excellent defensive cooldowns to trade with all of the one-shot damage that's available in the game to just completely immune it. You do great sustained damage into dampening. You have great instant crowd control to set up burst. Really, you are just like the most compatible specialization in the game all around. And you can solo players. You bring Psyfiend, which is one of the best countermeasures to all of the amazing levels of healing in the game. Amazingly high levels of healing in the game. So you can counter that. Like, you just fit into the mold of everything. So, I mean, for me, I'm honestly saying Shadow is the best spec when it comes to ladder. Just for that reason, because it is the most flexible, the most versatile, and can easily get to rank 1 with that many options. Whereas Fire BM, its options that it has will get you there, but it doesn't have that same flexibility or versatility. So I think Shadow comes in a better spot because of that. But this is my tier list so far for competitive 3v3 for 9.1.5. Let me know what you think of my thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Should some of these be shifted around? What's your experience? What are you going after? Is 9.2 intriguing you now with some of these changes? Because a lot of these specs have definitely improved. If we keep seeing the direction that it's been going now, since the pivot in 9.1.5, then who knows? 9.2 might be one of the best patches in the game. Really waiting to see. I'm going to be checking out the PTR along the way. So again, hit that subscribe button. Just going to let you know when all my update videos go live. And if you want to have content to enhance your experience with World of Warcraft, then it's going to be a great channel to be subscribed to. If you'd like to follow me live, twitch.tv/Supatees, streaming every day at 11 a.m. We're doing viewer games. At the moment, a lot of Mage Tower because I'm really trying to get 7 out of 7 and join the book club. But we do viewer games, and I've helped 60 people now, maybe 60 plus people now, get to their desired ratings. So if you want to try and push, whether it's a 1400 push, 1600 push, 2100 push, whatever it is, I'm there, always looking for games, and we can queue up and we can get you to where you want to be. Other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.